I took a 4-night Mexican Riviera cruise out of Long Beach, California, on one of the oldest ships I've ever sailed in Carnival's fleet. And despite a slow start, the West Coast won me over with its laid-back vibes and amazing views. Come along with me aboard the Carnival Radiance as we visit Catalina Island and Ensenada, Mexico. Hey, what's up? It's Corey. First released in the year 2000 under the name Carnival Triumph, the Radiance turned 25 years old while I was cruising on board. And this is one of the strangest ships I've experienced in Carnival's fleet. But that doesn't mean you should avoid booking this cruise whatsoever. Following a $200 million refit back in 2021, the Radiance now offers some of Carnival's most sought-after casual food offerings in the whole fleet. Let's start at the beginning. I arrived at the port of Long Beach the night before my cruise and checked into the Queen Mary Hotel. It's right next to the embarkation pier where the Radiance, along with the Forenzia and the Panorama, all sail from. Now, would I stay in the Queen Mary again? I'm not so sure about that, but it sure was convenient to get into the cruise port. Embarkation here is pretty quick, and I was walking on board Radiance in about 20 minutes. And for once, an older Carnival ship isn't that tacky pink and gold all over the place. Well, all right, there is a little bit of gold, but it's a very soft, brushed gold with a blue theme all around this ship. Overall, the Radiance feels much newer than it actually is. And everywhere I visited on board, I was pleasantly surprised by the modern, tasteful updates that Carnival's made around here. It really makes you wish that they'd update the rest of their older ships to be more in line with what they did here on this particular one. One of the most important places on any cruise is your cabin. And for this sailing, I booked on a budget. Welcome, my friends, to cabin 2303, an interior stateroom with 2 hide-a-beds up there in the ceiling. This cabin felt very roomy for an interior room, and it even seemed a little larger to me than some of the interiors that I've had recently on Carnival's newest ships, like the Mardi Gras or the Celebration. The room features a king or 2 twin beds with a small but technically their desk. And because of the hideaway beds in the ceiling, this cabin has a bit of extra room behind the desk, right back here, where you can sort of spread out and lay out your luggage and organize your things. Just note though, the walls in here don't work very well with magnetic hooks. At the desk, there's 2 USB ports, 2 US sockets, and yes, I was yelled at recently in a previous video for calling these plugs instead of sockets, as well as there's 1 European plug in here. That's right, Mr. Socket. There's also a wonderfully bright mirror and a hairdryer as well. The closet space to the left was a bit underwhelming, even though there was a lot of it, with mostly just room for hanging clothes and not that many shelves. Stepping into the bathroom, this again is pretty spacious for a cruise ship interior cabin, with shelving on both sides of the mirror and plenty of room to move around while getting ready. In the shower is Carnival's signature soap and shampoo, and a turbo shower head that might have removed most of the skin from my chest along the way. The biggest no though in here was the shower curtain. It cuts in right where you would like to stand when you're showering, meaning it just sticks to your whole body the entire time you're in here. Really, the only issue I had with the cabin was the bathroom door handle. Like some people I know, it had a screw loose. All in all, this was a great room with wonderful service from the attendant, and it was a perfect way to save a few $100 that you can use on shore excursions instead. If you're interested in booking a cruise like this one to the Mexican Riviera, that's where my friends at Cruise Is It can help you out. They're the folks I trust to book my cruise, and I trust them to help you book yours as well. Just scan this QR code and you can just click book and cruise, all from the website that pops right up. After checking out the cabin, I was getting a little bit hungry, so I decided to try out Shack's Big Chicken. This is kind of a rare venue to find on a Carnival ship, and it's one you shouldn't skip out on if you come across it when you're cruising. I ordered an amazing chicken biscuit sandwich that I customized with hot honey butter and some extra slices of cheese, and I never got the chance to eat my sandwich, unfortunately. That's because I set it out on a clean brand new table, turned and walked about 5 feet to get a cup of water, and while I was gone for maybe 20 seconds, in that time, some lady came up and gave my sandwich to one of the cleaning attendants and took my table for herself, despite the fact the table right next to it was empty and available. If you can think of a good reason why she would do that, please let me know about it in the comment section. After a reorder, I'm happy to tell you that Shack's Big Chicken continues to be a great spot for casual included eats on board your Carnival Cruise. Following the Chicken Sammy, the famous Carnival sail away party was already bumping further forward on the ship. Carnival continues to work on these parties to keep them family and brand friendly, and this one was pretty tame compared to some of the sailaways I've been to in years past. Long Beach is a very pretty port to sail out of, with views of the mountains in the distance, the Queen Mary right behind your ship, and the open ocean ahead of you and all around. We pushed off and started sailing away bound for Catalina Island, which is one place I cannot wait to tell you a little bit more about. While sailing away here, the aft of the ship, right above the Lido deck, is the perfect spot to grab those sail away photos. Later that evening, I ate in the main dining room. The food and service in here were excellent during the whole cruise, with some of my favorite eats being the corn chowder, soup, salmon fillet, a wonderful crispy chicken Asian salad, and of course, a ton of sorbets for dessert. The dining room food on board this cruise was above average for Carnival standards, and I was super happy with pretty much everything they served me. The following day, we made port in Catalina Island. I've been trying to visit this place for a few years now, and I have not been able to catch a break with the weather. We've just been skipping it every time this has been on my cruise experience. But today, the weather could not have been more perfect if I ordered it up myself. Catalina is a tender port, meaning you walk from your cruise ship directly onto a small ferry boat, and then they just kind of cruise you over to the land and then you disembark there. It's about a 5-minute ride, but loading and unloading can take up to 45 minutes all said and done, so just plan for that. Catalina Island is also known as Avalon if you're looking for like a weather forecast or trying to find it on the map, and it consists of like a semicircular harbor area that has tons of little restaurants and places to shop, as well as a free-to-use beach and swim area. Now, this is the Pacific Ocean, so don't expect this to be like some sort of tropical swimming experience like you might have in the Bahamas. But the sand is clean and there were plenty of people snorkeling, and they even had a lifeguard on duty, so it's a great place to get in the water if that's what you want to do. It was still early in the morning at this point, and I decided to grab a little bit of breakfast. I found a place called the Pancake Cottage. It's about a 3-minute walk just straight off where the cruise tender drops you. It'll be on your left-hand side. And despite it being named after pancakes, I ordered huevos rancheros. These came out with soft corn tortillas, Spanish rice, and refried beans. This meal was incredibly tasty, but island pricing is about double what you'd expect to pay on land. But if you're in Catalina in the morning and you're feeling like breakfast, this is a nice little place to stop, and I think you should try it. I wish I had known just how lovely this port was going to be. It reminded me of a blend of the little Spanish ports you stop at on a transatlantic, mixed with like old European towns. It was filled with these little brick walkways that had hidden cafes and shops all around you. There's also a huge casino here, which I walked over to, only to find out that there's a cover charge of 25 bucks to get in for the day. And as I considered gambling losses to be the cover charge for a casino, all I ended up leaving the casino with was some pretty B-roll of the Carnival Radiance anchored just offshore. There's also a secret little beach out here just past the casino, and the walk out here was beautiful. Nice flat paths, paved all the way. Heading back to the cruise ship, I checked out a little pier area that's built right into the main harbor. This felt so very California to me, with little vacation-y restaurants on both sides of you, bunch of places to pick up your excursion, some vendors, and you can look at all the cool boats out in the harbor. All in all, Catalina Island was so surprising to me as a cruise port. It's very high on my list of places now that I would like to come back to and visit again. The relaxed, slow pace of life and stunning vistas were kind of just what you'd want on a relaxing vacation. I caught one of the last tender boats back to the ship, and as the sun began to set, we sailed out of Catalina Island. It was one of those sunsets that looks kind of like it was just out of a movie. You know how those ribbons of orange go across the sun in Lion King? It was just like that. I decided to have a guy's burger for an early evening snack and change things up a bit from my usual order and ask for the pig patty. The menu is a bit misleading as they say it's an all bacon patty, which has kept me from ordering. It's been a minute since I tried something new at Guy's Burger, but I decided to go with the pig patty, which essentially is your regular Guy's Burger with cheese, but they throw on this little like slice of this super crispy bacon. I'm excited to try this out. This one was looking good. Let's check this out. That tastes a lot like a Wendy's Junior Bacon Cheeseburger right now. I'm actually pretty glad I tried it. It was great. Unfortunately, things haven't been 100% perfect here on the Radiance though. The one place that really needs some improvement is the entertainment offerings on board. This is kind of a funky ship. I think there's only like one other ship in Carnival's fleet that's laid out like this. And what I mean by that is there's not actually a main theater here in the front of the ship like you normally find on a cruise ship. And that means there's not really all the high production theater shows that you might expect most nights on a cruise. And to me, that's like one of the standard pieces that's supposed to come with a Carnival cruise. The other issue here on this particular sailing is the piano bar has been closed the entire time. And unfortunately, that means the entertainment on board here was just left with basically some musical acts scattered around the ship. Mind you, the musicians themselves are very talented and fun, but it is something to be aware of. It's a little bit lacking here on board, with the one exception being the 80s party on night number 3 of the cruise. A lot of people dressed up in their 80s swag and got in the spirit for this one, and the cruise director threw a pretty decent little dance party out on the Lido deck, and the weather even cooperated for once. You know, there's still some food venues we haven't covered yet for this cruise. Let's talk about the one you're actually going to visit probably the most, the Lido Buffet. I found this to be above average compared to other Carnival cruise ship buffets, with lots of really good looking food on offer. The biggest limitation in here though were the hours of operation. For some reason, they seem to close in here for long amounts of time in the afternoon and not reopen until actually kind of late for dinner, like close to 6 o'clock. And that was a little bit odd for me, considering anybody booked on this cruise that traveled in from the East Coast. Well, 6 o'clock is really 9 o'clock back home, and that's a pretty late start for dinner. It is, of course, my professional responsibility to try new things out when I come across them on these cruises. In this case, on the Radiance, Mississippi Mud on the ship's buffet. It looks like a chocolate brownie with like maybe a toasted marshmallow, and then you just drizzle a little bit of chocolate sauce on it. So we're gonna try this. I hope it's warm. Yeah, you should try this if you come across it. The other port stop we visited on this cruise was Ensenada, Mexico. The weather here was gorgeous as well, just like the other day in Catalina, with tons of sun and a little bit of haze as well. We were in port with an old friend of mine, the Royal Caribbean Ovation of the Seas. Here in Ensenada, I highly recommend taking one of the cruise line offered winery tours. They start at about $70, and they usually come with motor coach transportation to one or more wineries, with a facility tour and then some sort of tasting room experience. And if you read the fine print, some of them even come with a free bottle of wine per person. So you might come home with a couple bottles if you got a little group going on with you. So what did I think about the Carnival Radiance as a whole? Overall, I really love the updated spaces on this ship. It feels big, open, and fresh. For being 25 years old, this is one inviting cruise ship. The included dining options were all better than I'd expected for just spending a few $100s on this cruise. And I even liked the chocolate and strawberry beignets that you can order from the Seafood Shack. I got those just this morning right before I'm filming this, and there's probably some powdered sugar in my beard here. The port offerings on this cruise also were perfect, though I wish there was maybe one more stop in Mexico. That's kind of my fault for booking a 4-night cruise instead of like a 5 or 7. The biggest drawbacks were the lack of entertainment on board, but overall, I never became bored with only 4 days here on the Radiance. So is this the cruise that you should book for yourself? Well, after sailing all of the cruise ship offerings here on the West Coast for Carnival Cruise Line, the one I would most recommend to most cruisers is actually the Carnival Panorama. It does offer 7-night sailings, so it's a little tougher to get away. I know that vacation time's difficult for some of y'all, but that is a 2019 built cruise ship. It is much larger than this one, has all of the same venues, but a lot more entertainment options. So it's gonna appeal to a much broader amount of people. But if you're on the fence about booking here on the Radiance, well, I think you're gonna have a wonderful time, and the value is pretty solid on this one, so I wouldn't be scared to book this cruise either. But remember how I brought up an old friend earlier in this video when we talked about the Ovation of the Seas? Well, I took an ultra budget Alaska cruise on that ship last year, and I saved almost 50% off the regular booking price for that itinerary. But there was a catch, and I think you might want to be aware of it to see if it was really worth saving all that money. Check it out in this video next.